You are an exorcist. And we were just talking before we sat down about how even just in the last few years, exorcists coming out and sharing about their ministry was not common. And in fact, they were kind of secretive and hidden within dioceses. There would be priests in a diocese, a certain geographic part of the church where people wouldn't even know who the exorcist was. It was kind of hush hush. Now, you yourself, we've had a couple other exorcists on the show over the last, almost 2 years now. And there's other folks that are coming out and sharing about what it means to combat the devil. And, what's your take on why this is happening more? Why there's more of this happening as opposed to that more quiet approach from just a few years ago?
Well, honestly, back around the year 2000, I was still living in New York, and Father Benedict Rochelle was directing me. And he told me something very interesting. He said, because I mentioned something about the evil that was going on, even in the church. And I said, what's your take on all this? And he says, there's only 18 exorcists in the country. Imagine that. In 25 years ago, he said, there's about 18 exorcists in this whole country. He says, we really need more like 1,000, more like the canon lawyer numbers, like 2,500 canon lawyers. But until that shifts or the culture shifts back to God, there's a problem here. So first of all, there weren't very many of them. The ones that we had, the church had always said it's better to stay hidden, even from their own presbyterate that didn't know where they were. So you'd call the chancery would notify the exorcist would go directly to the victimized subject. But in the last 10 years or so, there's actually organized meetings of exorcists. So we have conferences where we get together to share what's going on in our regions, if there's something new we should know about, and share with other exorcists, and just trends that are happening. From those meetings, we started talking, and I remember a few people had mentioned to me, like Father Vince Lampert and Monsignor Rossetti, that said it would be better to be teaching the general public what to be aware of. Not to be highlighting what the devil's doing. We don't want to give him any glory, but we can just teach spiritual warfare and start letting people know you should be aware of these things. These are dangers. Like if you had a little child, don't reach up on the stove. If the flame is there, it's hot. You can get hurt. So similarly, in the spiritual life, we wanted to start getting out there to do that. And you can't do it anonymously. Nobody's going to give you follow somebody who's hidden behind a mask and say, I hope he's telling the truth. So you have to become more public with it. But in the process, there were, certain bishops were okay with it. This is what started happening. And now today I find many people are reaching back to us to let us know, wow, didn't know that was a problem. But now that I look at what you talked about, or even with the Exorcist files that Father Carlos was producing, people are learning from real life scenarios. This is a danger. Please don't do it.
You said 20, so there was Father Benedict Rochelle, you said 25 years ago, told you there were just 18 exorcists in all of the United States. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How many do you think there are now? Any sense?
Hard to say. There's still dioceses that don't have any. And the Vatican did mandate every diocese must have an exorcist, but there are reluctant bishops who are not doing it. I know in New York, I had a woman reach out that said, can I fly to you because my diocese doesn't have one? And
she was experiencing oppression, demonic oppression, or what was she facing?
Yeah, a combination. She was borderline possessed, and she had lost her job. She couldn't function, and her own diocese said, we don't have anybody to help you. And she says, I'm willing to fly there to do it. And I said, I don't know if that's a good idea, because it's not a one and done. I can't promise you I can do anything with just a day. Perhaps a bordering diocese, you could cross over to the next diocese and they could help you. But it's happening more and more. And then when people find out about you, they think, well, I guess this is where I have to go. I had a gentleman show up 2 months ago who drove 18 hours without an appointment and just landed at the parish. It was Saturday night. I had just finished the vigil mass, and it was going down to the social hall to bless a meal for the Knights or some function that was going on. And I didn't even know he was there, but the deacon was talking to him and said, well, Father's kind of tied up right now. What can I help you with? And he says, well, I really need to talk to him. And he said, if you're serious, maybe stay for mass in the morning, and after tomorrow morning's mass, he can talk to you. And he did. And it was an interesting story because he wanted to come into the church. He didn't have any religion in his life. And he was working for he said an agency, government agency. And I said, well, this is not, you didn't have to drive here. You can go to your local parish, talk to the pastor, ask to be enrolled into the formation to become a Catholic. He said, honestly, Father, I'm never at home, ever. Every week I'm on a new assignment, sometimes in other states, sometimes in other countries. It's that kind of job. And I said, so as it all shook out, we were able to help him in one way or another. But, that's also something that happens. People will just come. And what can you do? You have to at least try to help them because they've made the journey.
In that case, he wasn't facing demonic oppression or possession. It was more just he wanted the faith.
Yes. He believed his life was in danger, and we believed him too. And so that day he was baptized and confirmed.
Why did he think his life was in danger?
It's a tricky story that I can't make public, but he had uncovered a child sex trafficking ring this is part of his job. He's working for this agency, one of our government agencies that does that. And he got shot at twice. His vest saved him, but he thought there was a hit on him. And he was now leaving the country for at least 6 months to try to, evade them. So we took it as a credible threat, and we brought him into the church. I gave him a Bible. I gave him a catechism, a rosary, how to pray the rosary. And so we sent him on his way. We never took any exchanged information. He thought that was unsafe for us. And I never heard back from him. But that day, he was given the faith.
And this was just
a couple of months ago. You must have a pretty, not just crazy schedule, but a lot of crazy encounters like that one. It's not an ordinary life.